This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Pitchforks optional. Welcome to everyone that's with us already in the chat. Everyone got here early today. Great to have you all with us to pick apart the pieces of last night's 3-0 loss to the San Jose Sharks for the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets now just 2 points up on the Calgary Flames for the final playoff spot. And I mean, as much as that game last night was an incredible disappointment, frankly embarrassing on some levels, there is a lot to get to and so many angles from this game and the current situation that this team and organization is in, and we're going to try to get all over it today. Murat was in San Jose last night, was in the room speaking with the likes of Mark Scheifele, Dylan DeMello, and Rick Bowness after the game. We've got those comments, including video of them, and we'll talk about it with Murat a little bit later on. Scott Billeck is also going to jump on the program, and we'll get his thoughts from what he's thinking about the current plight of the team as they come home for this final homestand of the year with 7 games going in the wrong direction, having just lost again to the worst team in the National Hockey League with their season on the line. We will lighten things up a little bit later on. Ben Zloty of the Winnipeg Ice, a team that just kept on winning all season long, is going to jump on with us. Don't forget the Ice begin their playoffs Friday and Saturday at the Ice Cave, 7 p.m. on Friday, 6 o'clock on Saturday. So we'll look forward to talk about a team that has been fantastic all season long and will be playing playoff hockey this year. We can guarantee it. Not something I can tell you about the Winnipeg Jets right now after last night's win. Listen, before we get to it, I do want to thank the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Princess Auto and Coolbet Canada leading the way. Culligan Water, Vita Health Fresh Market, Canadian Club Whiskey, Wallace & Wallace, Consolidated Supply, F Apparel, Manitoba Battery, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and we will certainly get to another Why Not question of the day for our friends over at Not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray and Not.ca. And of course, Little Brown Jug as well. Tonight, by the way, if you haven't already locked up your tickets, there still are some available. We'd love to see you out at Little Brown Jug tonight. It will be sports trivia, hosted by yours truly. And as I joked on Twitter, well, only half joking, maybe a little bit of a Jets fan crisis counseling session for everyone to get together, vent a little bit, have a couple great beers down at Little Brown Jug. So that's getting going at 7 o'clock. We'll be there early. Pop down, bring your crew, and hopefully we will see you there for that. I was telling a couple friends this morning that, I mean, I was livid, like most people that care about this team were last night after the game. Incredibly disappointed, almost despondent, to be honest with you, with the way that things went up. And listen, the guys on OB did a great job on the post-game show, Illegal Curve. Many of us were up with KNR till nearly 2 in the morning last night listening to it. I went to bed pissed off. I woke up even more pissed off, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'm sure many of you are in the same boat. To think that we are talking about a team that was first place in the Western Conference just over 2 months ago and is now looking like it's maybe even likely that they won't be a playoff team is it's almost unfathomable. But when you hear what we heard last night from Mark Scheifele and then Rick Bowness, maybe we should have expected this. We've been staring at this for the last couple months. A team steadily going down and unable to get back to where they were and doing the things that made them a darn good hockey team through the first half of the season. We're going to get to the comments from Mark Scheifele. I mean, this is complete deja vu from last year. He was ineffective again last night, not getting things done. I'll give him credit for one thing. He did speak after the game. But I think what he had to say was maybe as telling and as damning about his role in where this team has fallen to after such a great start this season. And as far as Rick Bowness goes, listen, I think Bones, and we'll talk about this with Murat a little bit later on. He's got a great piece on it in The Athletic. I mean, there's certainly a lot of blame to be thrown around. And when it comes to personnel, player usage, getting guys out there that are actually giving 100% right now, I think we can question some of the decision-making of the coaching staff. But it is quite clear that Rick Bowness is at the end of his rope right now with a number of his players and really does not have any other cards to play. And when you hear, once again, going back to things like personal pride, it tells you all you need to know about what's missing right now with this Winnipeg Jets hockey club. And it is, it's brutal. And listen, this fan base deserves better. This city deserves better. So many good people that have been working hard at True North Sports and Entertainment, I think, deserve better. And, regardless of what happens over the course of these next 7 games, whether the Jets will suffer the indignity of one of the biggest choke jobs in any recent NHL history in not even qualifying for the playoffs after being first in their conference in the second half of the season, or whether they end up somehow getting into the playoffs, winning a few games and downing out. This is the end of the road for a number of players on this team. Some will say, and I'm not entirely sure where I'm at, on, whether it's time for a complete overhaul of management coaching, but I mean, that has to be a topic right now, because this situation is going to need a lot of courage. And I don't think that the organization, whether it be general manager, ownership, had the courage a couple years ago, even if they maybe knew what was coming and knew what some of the problems were, to make some of those bold steps to get past this, to avoid what's happening right now. And we are seeing the worst case scenario of a situation where you obviously have, internal problems. You have players that aren't entirely committed to doing what is best for the team every night. And we've just been sitting here watching it, showing up every night, whether it be here on Winnipeg Sports Talk or watching the games on TSN, or like myself and many of you going to every one of these games and watching this all fall apart. And it is about as low. This show, this moment, coming off of last night's game, looking at the standings, looking at the way this team has played, I think I can honestly say that there have been some real low points over the last few seasons after the highs of the 17-18 year. This is about as bad as it gets. And changes are coming right now. They can't come soon enough, I think, for many people. And to be perfectly honest with you, if some of those changes happen before the game on Friday night against Detroit, I wouldn't blame Rick Bowness or anyone behind them for making those right now. Listen, we're going to have a lot of time to do this. I am going to do my best not to get completely unhinged, as probably many of you were yesterday. But I think you can feel I got a lot of passion for this club. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be at all the games going down the stretch. I'm going to be there again next year. I hope many of you will be as well. I understand that there's a lot of people that have been turned off by what's happened the last few years. But, I mean, this team is too important to us, to our community, just to walk away. But this organization needs to realize that the time is long since past for massive changes. And I'll say this just strictly as a fan. I always want to support this team. I always want this team to be doing well. I always want them to be something that brings us all together through the winter, and hopefully the spring too. But I understand how how many people have been turned off by what we've seen, and even before this season. And that's why the first 45 games of this year was just so refreshing. The honesty that we heard from people, the accountability that seemed to be there, the way the team was played, the results, all of that seems to be gone, at least by part of the team right now, and it's killing them right now. So we're going to talk to Billeck about it. We're going to talk to Murat about it. We're going to get Remo in here right now, and we will talk Ice a little bit later on. But just before we get to Michael Remis, I mean, I think the chat's going to be lit all day long. But let's get to that why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp over Waverly and McGillivray. Of course, you can check them out online at not.ca. And I'm just going to put this to you. I mean, are you feeling like I am? And I think a lot of people are. I mean, is this rock bottom? And I'm not talking about this season. I'm not talking about losing again to the pathetic Sharks who came in at 32nd in the league and won 19 bloody games in the entire season. I'm talking about since the euphoria of getting our team back and getting back into the National Hockey League. I want to know, is this the lowest that you felt about the team, where we were at as a fan base right now? I mean, talk about the team, but I want to listen to the fans, and those are the people that are listening to the show right now. Hit us up in the comments on the Why Not question of the day, and we'll get to some of those as we continue the program. Let's get Remis in here. Remo, man, what's going on? How are you?
Yeah, I'm trying to get through this. I knew it was going to be a good show. It's amazing seeing over 400 people here. People are already saying this is the best chat ever in WST. We're only 10 minutes into the show. That was a well-done intro, Hustler. Last night's game, we called it a can't lose, and we saw more of the same from the Winnipeg Jets. So, you look at you're sitting here still stunned over how things have changed. They were in first place in January, and since January 17, they're 12-17-2, 26 points. That's good enough for fourth last in the NHL. Only teams worse, Columbus, Washington, and the San Jose Sharks, whose only 2 wins in their last 15 games come against those Winnipeg Jets. And you'll see teams who have a better record than the Jets in that time frame, teams that are openly tanking, Montreal, Anaheim, Chicago. I don't know if Philadelphia is tanking or not. I'm not sure what their plan was, and they fired the GM.
Well, we know that they suck.
We know that they suck. We know that they suck. St. Louis, who traded away everyone. So it's just hard to wrap your head around how this team, which we thought had so much talent, which played so well early on. And look, even if you thought they were going to fall off, that they were winning games they shouldn't have won, I mean, to be among the worst teams in the league, I mean, maybe you thought they'd be mid-pack, but to be here, pretty stunning. And when, I stuck around for the post-game yesterday, and I thought I was going to go to bed early, but after Rick Bowness's availability, I pretty much fell on the floor hearing him call out his team again. I don't think, we're going to play the comments and we can react to them, but I don't think, he's called them out before, and what did they do? No-showed in the first period against the Islanders. So we'll have to see, what happens. I will say, if you want to look on the bright side, they're still in a playoff spot. The playoff chances are dwindling. They're at 60% on Money Puck. I don't know if a lot of people believe they will get in. However, they're home for 5 games. Maybe you go on a win streak here and you can try to hold. And 2 of those games are against teams chasing you. Those games are must wins. They're can't lose and must wins combined, the double whammy. So, I mean, it's not over. I would think rock bottom would be not making the playoffs, but I think no matter what, if they make the playoffs or not, big changes are certainly coming or should be coming. And we thought they were going to be coming last year. They elected not to, and we're kind of on, 20. I don't know if this is 2019 part 2 or part 3 if you go by last season. But again, this is like a TV show or a movie that we've seen before.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because, I mean, we can compare it to 2019, we can compare it to last year, and compare it to this year. And 2019, and again, listen, maybe this is recency bias feeling that this is sort of the low point because As I said, we've been here before. This isn't the first time we've seen this team basically bottom out in the second half of the year. The worst part of the 2019 season was we knew how good that team was and how good a team could be. And they basically imploded from within. And the worst part about it was, and I mean, again, this is, I guess, up for debate, but I mean, I really do feel that they had major personality conflict in that locker room and decided that moving forward, they were going to have to make a choice. And this team tied their fortunes and their future to Mark Scheifele and to Blake Wheeler, and they sent Patrik Laine packing. If you remember the end of the 2019 season, when Laine really was struggling, and the entire team was basically on the same pattern right now. They were one of the best teams in the league. Frankly, I think they were second overall at the Christmas break or at New Year's, and ended up being incredibly mediocre, not even playing close to their potential in the second half of the season, and then bowing out in that first round series against the St. Louis Blues. Who are the guys showing up every night in the playoffs? Well, it was Patrik Laine, and ironically, it was Dustin Byfuglien who led the team in scoring despite not being at 100%. Well, that was the last we ever saw of Buff. And I know a lot of people were saying, I heard Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick talking about it, that this all started when Byfuglien left. It didn't start when Byfuglien left. It started when things went rotten in the second half of the 2019 season. And then I really think it got exacerbated. And I mean, it's easy to say this now, by the decisions that they made and, how they decided to handle this. And that was trading Patrik Laine to bring in Pierre-Luc Dubois, who, according to everyone, has 1 foot out the door. And by the way, did he play last night? Was Dubois out there? Obviously, I'm joking, but a completely inefficient game, invisible at times. That line wasn't good enough, and that was supposed to be the number one line. And then I think about what Laine did in that playoff run, and then as well, the first damn game of the next season against the Calgary Flames. You remember that one? Yeah, Laine scoring the OT winner, being the best player on the ice, was the last game he played here. I was checking up the power play numbers from 17-18 and 18-19, top 5 in the league. These guys can't even get a shot on goal right now. So listen, this does go back a long way. And unfortunately, we've been sitting through it. And I mean, I know people will bring up the pandemic. And listen, that is, of course, an unprecedented time in all of our lives. It was challenging for individuals. It was certainly challenging for businesses. But the bottom line is, I think that a lot of what we're seeing now smack us in the face again by both the play on the ice, and we're going to get to some of the comments after the game, in particular from Mark Scheifele, has been saying that this team tied its future to the wrong guys, maybe believed in the wrong guys for far too long, at a detriment to everybody else around the team, and at a real detriment to the organization because of the situation they're in right now. That's going to take a long time to come back from, and I really hope they can. So we're left with this team right now, and Mark Scheifele, wearing an A, has been, as I've referred to it, I mean, his response from what happened in Carolina with Kyle Connor and Nino Niederreiter being sat down for 12 minutes has been the worst case scenario for this club. And a lot of the things that we were seeing, that we speculated, we heard from Mark from his own lips yesterday. He's doing his own thing right now. Rick Bowness. It reminds me of Dave Lowry last year, Reem. I mean, Dave Lowry was at his wit's end. He was preaching, these are the things that we need to do. A number of the guys were in on that. When your most important players aren't listening, or worse, outwardly challenging the leadership and the direction of the club and doing their own thing, this is what you get. A team that can't beat the worst team in the National Hockey League when they win it, when they need it more than ever. I mean, Bowness, we're going to get to Bones' quotes in a minute. But let's hear from Mark Scheifele, because as I said, the one thing I will give him credit for last night is he didn't hide from the media. He went out and talked, and he actually spoke quite calmly for a while. he had a couple of, generic quotes. We'll go to it. Let's just play a couple of these. We'll start it off with 7, Remo. This is at the start of Mark Scheifele. Hey, what happened? Another night shutout, doing it to the San Jose Sharks. What wasn't happening, or how did he see the game? This is what 55 had to say.
We had lots of chances. Rav made some big saves. It's a tough loss for sure. We're in the thick of it. We're in the fire, and that's where things are molded, and that has to be the message. You just gotta keep fighting for every inch, and don't back down. And we have a 2-day break, which is nice here again to get some rest, and we gotta be ready on Friday.
Yeah, I don't know if anything's getting molded right now, other than maybe a blank slate for the next people that are going to be taking over this club. Let's go to number 10, Reem. Scheifele talked about the biggest challenge during his team slump, but also his personal slump that's extended for a few weeks now.
It's tough. Sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't, and obviously right now it's the pressure mounts for sure, but you just gotta know there's a plan for everything, and I just gotta try to keep on working hard and try to keep my head up and stay positive, and that goes for every guy in this room. We gotta stay positive with each other. We gotta continue to go to work, and obviously a big practice on Thursday, and obviously it's nice to be going home to our fans, and it feels like we haven't been at home at all this month, but just want to it's tough to say. It's hard when they're not going in for you, and especially the year that it's been so far. So that's I just have to trust in God's plan and just try to work hard and do all I can do, and know it'll turn around.
Yeah, everyone, trust in God's plan. Maybe we can get the chaplain in there to do the pregame pump up speech before the next game. Let's go with 12, Remo. This is just another example of words not being even close to the actions we're seeing when it's time to go to work. Scheif talked about wanting to be a desperate team.
Yeah, we gotta be a desperate team. It's big time right now. It's down to crunch time, and we just gotta embrace that fight and embrace it together as a group, and keep fighting. Fight with each other and put it all out there, and that's all we can do.
All right, now here are the key quotes, and we're going to play this before we get to bonus, and Billeck's going to join us in a couple minutes. But Murat, of course, was there, and we'll talk to Murat about this a little later on. But he asked Scheif about not getting the results compared to previous times. Here's what he had to say to that.
I remember last year you closed this season just on fire. Everything you touched went in the net sort of business at that time. Does it feel like you're doing the same things and not getting paid, or is it a difference in sort of how you're playing?
Yeah, I had probably 4 shots in the slot. Our line created a good amount. I think we could definitely generate some more high quality chances and not just shoot everything. Really make teams work, really make teams play in their D zone, and really wear teams down that way. And I don't think it's much about shot quantity; it's about quality. And I think if we do that, I think it's going to be we're going to create higher quality chances. We're going to draw penalties, and then really put other teams on the heels.
All right, anybody that's been paying attention and listening to Rick Bowness knows exactly what Mark Scheifele just said, and that's basically this coach is, what he's saying is wrong, and I'm doing my own thing. This is the way I like to play, and that's the way that I'm going to go about doing it. Murat followed up with Scheifele on what he just said.
You make the kinds of passes from behind the net into the slot. Even one today, I remember to Blake, and it just doesn't work out, sort of thing. You create chances by wearing teams down. So we hear Rick Bowness talk, shoot. Is there kind of a different way of attacking that create goals problem? Yeah, I'm a guy that, my whole career I play a possession game, especially in the O-zone. I like to, hold on to the puck, and especially below the goal line. That's kind of where I create my offense, and then, go to the slot when I play with some pretty magical players that can find me in the slot. And, that's always been my game. And, if it's a matter of, just trying to create more possession time, trying to create more O-zone time and wear teams down. And if it takes, 59 minutes, then it takes 59 minutes. But, that's always been my look at offenses is quality over quantity.
Yeah. What a quote. What a quote from Scheifele. And maybe this is just a public clapback after being challenged by a very experienced head coach that hasn't been seen enough from one of his most important players. But, I mean, just a completely opposite of everything that we've heard from not just the coaching staff, but a lot of the players on the team. And listen, a bunch of the other guys are buying in and are trying to do what they can do, the way the coaches are asking them to do, the way that they worked earlier this season. Dylan DeMello spoke as well after the game. And listen, this is the exact opposite of what we just heard from 55. Here's DeMello.
Well, I mean, I think we did a good job of shooting pucks today, and we were maybe a little gun shy last few games, and through this stretch, bits and parts, you know, because we put 40 up on tonight in shot clock and didn't score, we can't go back now to start looking for the extra pass, and those will open up once we continue to shoot and continue to drive the net. You know, could we get a little bit more traffic? Maybe. Like, you know, I'm not going to pick apart everything. You know, when you don't score, it's defense, it's forwards, it's everybody. So, you know, D can get shots through better. We can create more havoc. You know, we can be playing even faster, maybe creating some odd man rushes where the D can join up in the rush. You know, we can do, I think, so much in a lot of areas, and we will, and we'll be all right here. We just got to continue to stay with it.
All right, there's a guy that's listening, that's trying to be a good teammate, trying to do what the coaches are asking him from. And the earlier one is a guy that is on his own agenda. I don't know if there's any other better way that I can put it. And once again, it is killing this hockey team right now. And they are in serious, serious trouble. Now, Billeck's coming up in just a second. Scotty, if you could just be patient, because we do want to get to a couple of these bonus clips beforehand, because we're going to be talking about these all afternoon. Bones is at his wit's end. And, you know, there's only so many things that the coaches can say. You know, you can maybe take some ice time away, but at this point in the season, you need your team to come together as a team and to rise up. And that is not what we're seeing, especially from the top players. And, you know, Mark Scheifele is at that top of that list. But here's what Bones had to say. We'll go with one, Remo. Bonus's post-game comments as to what the heck happened losing 3-0 to the 32nd team in the National Hockey League.
Well, I would say we created enough scoring chances that the offense gave us a chance to win the game. We just didn't score, and then the inconsistencies of some of our players is hurting us. You know, if some of these guys think they're giving us everything in their tank, they're dreaming. So we got a lot of guys in there giving us everything they can, and we just need a few more guys to jump on board. It's not over. We're still in 8th spot, and we're going to find out what we're made of over the next little while.
If some of these guys think that they're giving everything in their tank, they're dreaming. I couldn't have said it better. And I appreciate Bowness. And I've said I appreciated his frank, his honesty throughout the season. It helped a lot when players were taking personal accountability as well. And I think that was sort of why the first half of the season went so well. Right now, there doesn't seem to be enough of that right now. But there are a lot of guys that are doing it. And unfortunately, you know, this is a disjointed team right now that is not getting leadership from some of its leaders, and it is a big mess. Here's a couple more bonus quotes before we get to Billeck. Ken asks how to reach some of these guys that, in his mind, aren't giving the 100% that he and his teammates need.
Listen, that's what there comes a point where your pride has to take over. How do you reach them? There comes a point where their personal pride has to take over. If someone has to go in there and point that out to them, then there's a big problem right there. So, as I said, we're going to find out what we're made of. We're going to find out what everyone in that room is made of over the next little while.
All right. You know, the obvious challenge and plea to find that pride within each player to show up and do what needs to be done to compete at a level that you have to compete to just play in the National Hockey League, never mind win hockey games at the most important time of the year, even if you're playing the worst team in the league. Here's one more. And again, podcast listeners, you'll want to get to the YouTube to see this, because as much as the quote says something, the look on Rick Bowness's face when this is asked by Murat tells far, far more. Of course, Bones spoke after Scheifele and DeMello spoke. We played those two clips and how diametrically opposed what you heard from Dylan DeMello was as opposed to what Mark Scheifele had to say. Murat asked Bones about that, and this is the way it sounded. And for those of you on YouTube, this is how it looked.
Two players came out. Dylan DeMello spoke to the importance of, hey, just because we didn't score, we still got to keep that shot clock high. Mark said, hey, the way I like to play is hold on to the puck, hold on to the puck, look for that pass into the slot. I mean, it sounds like you're getting two different camps of thought in terms of how to get out of this scoring slump.
We had enough scoring chances to win the hockey game.
Yeah. The quote saying we've had enough scoring chances to win the hockey game says one thing. The eye roll and the biting of the tongue says something else. Murat, as I said, was there. We'll talk to him in a little bit. Scott Billeck's coming up right away. Just before we do that, hey, wow, huge crowd today. Not surprised. If you haven't been around here before, we'll have lots to talk about heading into the postseason, whether the Jets are there or not. And all summer long, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Hit that red subscribe button, and make sure you're also subscribing wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Search Winnipeg Sports Talk, and give us a sub on your favorite podcast platform as well. All right, just before we bring in Billeck, shout out to our friends over at Manitoba Battery, Donnie and the gang. Best prices, best service in town. Whether you need a battery for your car, your truck, or that summer toy you're working on this winter, Manitoba Battery's got the best prices in town, and it'll save you time and money with their most well-priced option in the city. You can put an order in at Manitoba Battery on lunchtime or the start of WST. That sucker will be on your doorstep in 2 to 4 hours for less money than you'd get it anywhere else in the city. Don't waste your time finding a parking spot at Costco or waiting at line at Canadian Tire or spending your money at a big box store. Shop local, get the best deal in town, and let Manitoba Battery simplify your life and your battery buying operation. You can give them a call at 783-8787. Find them online at manitobabattery.com to order as well. You can always pop in and see Donnie and his great staff at 1026 Logan Avenue. Make sure you tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Fellas, if you need to up your wardrobe game heading into spring and summer, pop down and see our friends Andrew and his great staff at F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. Custom suits beginning at $400. Custom chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, tucked and untucked. They've got it all, not to mention the biggest selection of men's accessories around to make you look real good in your new outfits. Of course, wedding season's coming up, 15% off for all wedding parties when you get your suits at F Apparel. Don't waste money renting tuxes and having to return them the next day. And of course, if you've got a 2023 grad in the family, bring the young man down, get him suited up for his big day, moving on to the next stage of his life. He'll have a great new suit, custom made to fit, and F Apparel will throw in a free custom shirt and tie valued at $150. Pop down and see him, F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown, and online. Make an appointment at that's EPHapparel.com. Don't forget, we've still got some room for a few more nominations for our Wallace & Wallace Unsung Hero. Let us know about that person in your community making a real difference by extended hours volunteering within the community, working with charitable organizations and doing charity work. And of course, also being that person that, maybe helps out others in need, or is that person on the block that is always there when others have an issue. Send us, tell us about them at Unsung Hero at winnipegsportstalk.com. That's the email to send the nominations to. Our Unsung Hero for March will get an autographed Josh Morrissey jersey. Wallace & Wallace will make a $500 donation in the name of the WST listener that nominated the Unsung Hero. And Josh and Margot Morrissey are going to match that as well for the Dream Factory. Again, the email, unsunghero at winnipegsportstalk.com. And just before we bring in Billeck, hey, spring is, not quite here, but it's just about here. And if you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, and Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products too, Vita Health Fresh Market is the spot with 7 locations, or shop online at myvita.ca. With spring just around the corner, get ready for it with Ultimate Male Energy. Formulated specifically for men over 35, Ultimate Male Energy is designed to help improve testosterone production, reduce excess body fat, build muscle tissue, maintain prostate health, and more. It's on sale today at Vita Health. Vita Health Fresh Market, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, and online at myvita.ca. All right, let's get Billeck in here to get the latest from his mind on this Winnipeg Jets club. Scott, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's not fine elsewhere in this town right now, but I'm all right. What a night.
The team isn't all right. The fan base isn't all right. The game stunk. The post game was. You've been covering this team for a long time. I mean, where do the what we heard from Scheifele and what we heard from Bowness rank up as one of the most remarkable post game availabilities I think we've seen? And I would put it right up there with some. It was shocking. I mean, Remo said he almost fell off the couch when he heard from Bones, and I mean, then to see Mark Scheifele, I mean, so blatantly and publicly basically tell everyone what we've been seeing. He's on his own program. It was remarkable in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, that maybe this is recency bias, but I don't remember ever. I've been around for 10 years now. I don't remember ever seeing something like that. I don't remember the last time I've ever seen a head coach like almost put himself on injured reserve, rolling his eyes, snapping his head like he did, to something that his players said earlier. Like, I don't remember that happening. I watch all sorts of interviews, post-game interviews. I don't remember that. I don't remember that happening. I don't remember. I mean, we've seen Mark Scheifele before last season talk about the system and stuff like that, but I mean, you said it right before I came on. Like, Mark basically came out and said, I'm going to do what I want, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. This is the way that I play hockey. This is the way I've always played hockey, and I'm going to do what I want. And then to see Rick Bowness, like, what do you do if you're Rick Bowness? Like, this is a team that drove Paul Maurice to quit. This is a team that wouldn't listen to Dave Lowry, and then after listening to Rick Bowness for the good first half of the season, they've just abandoned it. They've abandoned the way to win hockey games, and it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. There's no math. The math hasn't been invented to make this add up properly. It doesn't make sense. And then you see Dylan DeMello, who's probably been one of the best soldiers on this team in terms of doing the right thing, listening to the coach. Like, Dylan DeMello is on the right page of Rick Bowness's playbook, and Mark Scheifele's in a different chapter. He's not even in the same book, to be honest with you. And you see it on the ice. You've seen it on the ice since the Carolina benching. This team's in shambles. Like, here's my question. What benefit would this team have of making the playoffs right now? And the only benefit that I can see is that it gives management a lifeline to say, well, hey, we made the playoffs. Look at us. I mean, at least we got there. And it's like, what? You backdoored in on some on some bad play, and now you're going to be happy that you made the play. Like, this is like Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler coming out after some games over the last few years, and they've won the wrong way or they've lost the wrong way, and they come out and they celebrate it like it's this big giant victory that they should have a parade about. And this is the way it feels right now. When the Jets win hockey games right now, they're happy that they did something good, right? They're happy that, well, we're building off this. It's game 75. There's 7 games left in this season, and this team is still trying to find. I don't know. What are they trying to find? What are they trying to find? They're trying to find their identity. They're trying to find their a way to win hockey games. They don't know how to do that anymore. They have.
You know what they're trying to find? You know what they're trying to find, Scott? They're trying to find their most important and highly paid players to show up. And
they've given up.
Well, I mean, I can't disagree with you. And listen, Scheifele's going to take a ton of the brunt of this, and he is, in my opinion, by far the biggest culprit for consistently doing basically exactly what he just told us he was doing after the game last night. But I mean, listen, Blake Wheeler's right there with him, playing with him all along. But I mean, we're talking about, like, if Wheeler was at his best right now, it may be here. Scheifele's capable of so much more, and I really do firmly believe the effect that it has on the rest of the guys in the room, the guys that Rick Bowness is talking about that are playing with pride, that are doing everything they can to win. It creates an absolutely rotten atmosphere, and all those things we heard about the Jet dressing room and stuff before. You know how that happens? We're watching it right now.
Yeah.
But
Paul Stastny was right, Huss. Paul Stastny was right. This is I went back and read his quotes for last night because I was just looking and trying to figure out what I was going to write today. And I remember he's like, this team needs to learn, right? And his line was, I hope this team learns from what happened last year. And can anybody answer? Can anybody say this team has learned anything from last year? Have they learned anything? Because they're all doing the same things over
2 months ago, I would have said absolutely.
Yeah, you would have.
Unfortunately, it's being revealed. The mask has been taken off, and it was that same guy that was there the year before.
It's horrible. It doesn't make any sense. And like you feel, I don't know who you feel bad for here. You feel bad a little bit for Rick Bowness because I mean I think he has the ear of a lot of that dressing room, but it only takes 2 or 3 players to really sink this team. That's how fragile it is. But Rick Bowness deserves a little bit of blame here, Huss, because he's the one that still trots out Blake Wheeler on the top lines. He's the one that still trots out Mark Scheifele and gives him 5-6 more minutes than Nikolai Ehlers. Morgan Barron is sitting on the 4th line when he had, had that nice Rodman rush last night. I mean, there are guys on here that are trying to win hockey games, and they're not playing right now. They're not playing as much as some of the guys who aren't trying to win hockey games and are just doing their own thing out there. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, and that's part of the problem. Is that the head coach, and I think the problem is you already looked at what happened to Mark Scheifele when you benched him, and Rick Bowness can't bring himself to do it again because of just how much worse it could possibly get, right? And I think that's a big part of the problem is that he tried to reach him through taking 12 minutes of ice time away during a game, and it sunk him. And like that's for a 30-year-old hockey player, NHL player that used to say that he wants to be in the same breath as Connor McDavid. I mean, that'll never happen. It's not happening because Mark Scheifele doesn't have it within himself, it appears, to be a leader. He wears an A on this team. I think they just gave it to him because, I mean, if they didn't, what might have happened if they, it's a validation thing. I remember when Blake Wheeler said he doesn't need to be validated by the C anymore. I think Mark Scheifele needs to be validated by wearing the A, but he doesn't deserve to wear that letter. And I know we're picking on Mark Scheifele here, but he's your number 1 center. He's the guy with 38 goals this year, but hasn't scored in the last 9 games during such a critical juncture of this season where this team needs leadership, it needs scoring, it needs all these things to stave off the Calgary Flames and Nashville Predators, and he's failing at it. And this team is failing and going. This team, I thought this team lived and died by Colin Hellebuck. I'm starting to think this team lives and dies by Mark Scheifele. And it's dying right now because Mark Scheifele isn't doing a damn thing.
Well, and yeah, I mean, listen, Connor Hellebuck, this team's not even in the conversation if Hellebuck isn't in there, and you know what you're getting from Hellebuck. But I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's obviously no more important player when it comes to both the potential on the good side as well as one that can be more damaging to his team when they're not on board. By the way, thanks to Les Thompson, who just dropped a nice super chat in there. Thanks, WST. Cheaper than a psychologist couch. We're gonna have some crisis counselors on hand tonight at Little Brown Jug for sports trivia tonight if you need to vent a little bit. As far as what happens right now, I'm with you. I mean, part of me thinks after what we've seen this last little while, you know what? Say that there's an injury. Give them, give Mark a mental health break or something like that. Just say, you know what? Take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Get Jansen Harkins. He's playing his ass off right now with the Manitoba Moose in the lineup. Throw Axel in there. I mean, honestly, do anything other than what is happening right now. Right. So I got to tell you, it could get ugly at Canada Life Centre this week. Yeah. People are restless. The angst is as high as I can remember in a long time. And listen, most people are pardon me?
This team needs that, Huss. This team needs the fan base to almost fight back against what's happening right now, because somebody.
How do you think Scheifele's going to respond to that?
I don't think it matters how Mark Scheifele responds to it. Management and ownership has to respond to it, right?
They know.
Somebody's got to respond to it. Well, do they though, Huss? Because we've been going this over years and years now of them ignoring the problems with this hockey team. They've ignored the problem with Mark Scheifele. They've ignored the problem with Blake Wheeler.
Well, better yet, I would say they emboldened it. They emboldened it. I mean,
exactly. Because
they made choices. They made choices that made this even worse. And and listen, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's some differing opinions of the people that have influence in that. I have a feeling that some maybe came to this conclusion earlier than others.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things that tie into it. And listen, it's not easy to turn over your most important and highly paid players and not miss a beat. It's obvious the faith that they put in some of the key guys that they sort of handed the keys over to hasn't been reciprocated, and it's been a disaster for the organization. But honestly, I mean, I don't think that there's anything more that could possibly happen that we haven't seen already in this past 2 months that hasn't been, I mean, I referred to it as a slap in the face. You know how sometimes, you're seeing something and you doesn't know it, and then you get smacked in the face. You're like, whoa. That's what this last 2 months has been. That's especially what this last 7 or 8 games have been. And if you needed any clarity, if anybody in the front office needed clarity about it, we heard it again last night from Mark when he spoke after the game. And back to Bowness for a minute. I mean, I am with you. I mean, listen, I wouldn't have been here saying, oh, I can't believe they went and, cut the ice time of Scheifele and Wheeler at any point. Yeah. I do get it, though. I mean, if you're going to get to the playoffs, and up until this last night, they've still been in a very likely situation to be a playoff team. I don't think that they're there anymore after everything that happened last night. But, I mean, it's unrealistic. You're going to kick those guys to the curb, get into the playoffs, and then, as I mentioned, throw in Axel and Jansen Harkins or Carson Kuhlman, and all of a sudden be able to compete with these teams. The only possible way this team can win is if they get the best out of the players that we're talking about. Yeah. And I'm going to include Kyle Connor, and I'll include Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, you can't sit them all.
No, you're right.
But to be perfectly honest right now, and I mean, I don't know how you do this, and it's probably impossible with 7 games left. I don't think that there is any Jet fan right now that would blame Rick Bowness and his coaching staff for almost anything right now. Sitting guys, throwing in the press box, telling them then they're done, doing something else, because doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results often is the definition of insanity right now. And I'll tell you what, this team is driving people insane.
Yeah, you're right. I'm watching. If you notice my eyes, I'm looking over and I'm reading the chat right now. I'm like, I mean, I get it, right? Like, I get it. Like, I don't know, though, how an organization expects people to open up their wallet to come watch this right now, right? And most of that money right now has already probably been invested in the last few games. People have bought their tickets or whatever. I wouldn't expect a whole lot of walk-up right now to buy tickets for this team. But there's just, like, I don't know where the hope is for fans at the moment, right? I mean, the hope is in the future right now. But what does the future look like if this team continues to run with the same people, and not just on the ice, but in management positions? What hope is there that it gets any better? Like we've talked over the last few summers about how this is the summer of Kevin Cheveldayoff, right? I think this next summer is the summer of Mark Chipman, because who else has the power to change this other than the owner? And he's the one that has to make the really, really difficult decisions for himself of what needs to change in this market. Because 12 years into this, there's nothing to show for it. And these last 2 years have been brutal on the fan base. They've been brutal on the organization. They've erased any kind of good, I don't know what you want to call it. It's not karma, but any sort of good, brownie points, let's say, of attracting players to this market. Like there's nothing here right now for anybody to want to sign here as a free agent.
Well, listen, I'll say
how many
this.
players are going to want out after this?
Timmy,
year?
I talked with a couple people in different markets that have been close to the Jets before. And I mean, the one thing that keeps going up, and we've heard this term, Hamilton uses it all the time, that some of these players and the guys that we've talking to have been so coddled during his time here. It's almost like the inferiority complex of Winnipeg and how hard it is to get guys to come here has allowed the guys that have signed here, not all of them, I mean, certainly not Adam Lowry, and Josh Morrissey's not in this group, but has allowed them to sort of do their own thing, to get away with things that you wouldn't get away with anywhere else in the National Hockey League. And they've been protected through it all to avoid maybe some embarrassment or, those tough things about it. Listen, I'm back. I'll always support this team and be going to games. And I'm happy as someone that is sort of in the media that I'm there with the fans, spending my own hard-earned money to go to these games. And I continue going, but I'm going to tell you right now, and I think here's another why not question of the day. People, let me know if you feel me on this. I would way rather watch a team that has some younger players, has some less established players, a team that I know for a fact has way less talent than this club right now and probably has only a miracle's chance of winning a Stanley Cup next year, than to bring back this group. And frankly, I kind of felt that way last year as well, but it didn't happen, and try and do this again. Let's get some people that appreciate playing in Winnipeg. Let's get some people that appreciate the opportunity to be NHLers, that accept the challenge of what they have to do every day, and they are playing in a team sport. Some of these guys should have been freaking tennis players, where you know what, you only have yourself to blame, and if you're having a bad day, you can just double fold a bit and you can quit and you can leave. This is a team sport. This is the ultimate team sport, and unfortunately, the investments that they've made over and over again to a fault have ended up backfiring spectacularly, and that's a huge reason why we are where we are right now.
Well, and another one's going to backfire too this summer when they have to trade Pierre-Luc Dubois to Montreal for whatever Montreal wants to give to this team, right? And then the whole line A and winning the second overall pick, being gifted with that, and all that amounts to basically
don't even get me
nothing.
Started on that.
I know, but I mean this is going to
that.
hurt the club for a while, Huss, right? Like this is the problem. This is why it's got to end this summer, because you have to start rebuilding this team. And I agree with you. Like I know there's people out there. I've argued with Ken Weeb about this over and over again. There's people who think that this team or this fan base won't put butts in the seats during a rebuild, and I disagree, because if there's anything that this team wants or this fan base wants more, is players that go out there and try and try hard and give them their money's worth, right? And so if you go out there and you could say that this team has won hockey games or loses hockey games, but everybody try hard, I think people would actually care about that, right? I think you start building and currying some favor within the fan base, that you're playing these young kids again, that you're going into the stables, and all these guys that you've drafted and talked about being this the next wave and all that are actually starting to come up and play. And I agree. I think you need to get some players in here. I think the biggest thing that the Buffalo Sabres did to rekindle the fire in that team was going out and getting Alex Tuck
Amen
in
to
that trade, because there was a guy who said immediately upon his arrival in Buffalo, I want to be here. I want to make this team. I want to be, Buffalo may not be, the greatest hockey market or not a very good viewed hockey market. People don't want to come here, but I'm going to make it, and I'm going to be part of the way that turns this around. And I think the problem with this team has been that it can't attract things, but there's just no ambition, no vision of bringing in a Manitoban player or somebody that would kickstart, I don't know, to borrow a church term, a revival of sorts around here that would start bringing, because I'm a firm believer that you build a winner in Winnipeg, it doesn't matter that it's Winnipeg anymore. It matters that, look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, man. Who wants to come and play in Winnipeg and do that? But they do, because they win. There's a chance to win a championship, and there's this family type of atmosphere here. And
dozens of them are living here year round.
I know. And so why? And I get that CFL players don't make a boatload of money and all that, but a lot of these guys can go back and live in Texas or Florida or Georgia from where they're from or whatever, but they choose to live here because there's opportunity and they find roots for their family, and they realize that Winnipeg maybe isn't that bad, even with the money that they make and all that. There's no integration right now between most of these players in the city. This is a team where you rarely see the owner kind of with the fans and that sort of thing. It's so you call them the Winnipeg Jets, but it doesn't always feel like this team is Winnipeg's or the provinces or anything like that. And I think again that speaks to a bigger problem where I just don't think the direction of this team is working here anymore, and it needs to change. Yeah. And you need to get a guy like an Alex Tuck or somebody like that to come in and be like, hey, this is where I want to be. I want to make this work. And from there, you start to get people that kind of follow that, right? Because it's true leadership. You can, again, you build it and they will come. And I'm a firm believer in that, because most hockey players in the National Hockey League want to win a Stanley Cup. And if you can give them that opportunity, they'll handle the winters and all that. Half these guys aren't even here for most of the winter because they're gone on the road and they're doing all that. It's not that difficult to live here for an NHL player because you're at the rink, you go home, whatever. It might be a difficult time for the wives and girlfriends at times or whatever. But again, I think if there's a chance to win a championship here, then people will come. And that's what you have to build here. And this team has been nowhere further from a championship than they are right now, and something has to change. That's just the end. That's the end of the story. Something's got to give.
And listen, I think that they have some players right now with this club that are part of that. But here's the thing.
But it's soured by the other ones that aren't.
Well, exactly. Until you cut out the problems and allow those players to go forward and create that environment that you have, you can't do it. And, I've mentioned the word courage a couple times when we're talking about, moves that have needed to be made that haven't been, and what we need going into this season. And I don't think there's a better example of it in the National Hockey League than down the highway in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Bill Guerin came in. And the courage, the risk that it took to cut loose Parise and Suter, what it was going to cost, knowing that Suter was going to go sign elsewhere in the division while you're paying him all that money, was stunning, frankly, at the time.
Yep.
But you look back to what it did, it created an entirely new environment, culture without those guys, and maybe it's unfair to blame them, but it turned it over to a new group of players, and they have thrived since then. This is a team that is doing it in a much more difficult situation than pretty much any other team right now in the league because of these cap penalties that they have. Yeah. And they're competitive right now. They've got young players coming in that are contributing right now, that are taking advantage of the opportunities. And to me, there is going to be some, listen, we all know, where I'm at on this. I've been talking about this 2 Novembers ago. that they needed to really think about this right now because of what was to come. And what has come is they've run through, blown 2 seasons, and you still haven't taken care of the obvious, very glaring issues right now within that core, within that culture you've talked about. And listen, the fact that we're seeing this right now just speaks to what an incredible job Bowness did for the first 45 games along with that coaching staff. I mean, how when you think about where things were a year from right now and where they are right now, how that was even possible to get that team playing and to get those guys buying in for that period of time, it is amazing. But here we are right now, Scott, and no kidding.
I'm just helping the chat out.
But here we are right now, and I honestly have no idea what to expect when we get to that rink on Friday night, take on the Detroit Red Wings.
Right.
And I mean, just in the short term, and regardless of the big pictures and the personalities and the cultures and the changes that need to be made, I was telling you all that this 2 weeks was going to determine how things went. They could not afford to lose that game last night. We've gone through Calgary's. The only team that is technically a playoff team that Calgary plays for the rest of the year is the Winnipeg Jets, who look nothing like a playoff team right now. They got Anaheim. They got Chicago. They got Vancouver. That was just an absolutely devastating loss right now. And, I feel sorry for a lot of the characters that are doing everything they can to help to win. And it is just impossible to look at this team right now in the short term and really not think about what needs to happen, regardless of whether we're going to see a playoff game. Even if they were to make the playoffs, I mean, the feeling around this city and this fan base, I mean, don't expect 30,000 people at a whiteout party right now. I'm not even sure they'd sell out the games.
Right?
Like, as crazy as that sounds.
I know. But and this is part of the reason why I don't think it's a net positive or a net benefit for this team to make the playoffs right now. Like, I don't know what it does, because I think the fan base already knows what is wrong with this team, and they need this summer to try and start fixing it, and putting the playoffs in front of this team and hoping for the best, and only to get kind of let down because, this Jets team isn't going to beat the Colorado Avalanche. This Jets team can't beat the Minnesota Wild.
There won't be. If they get there, there will be no letdown, because the expectations by the majority of people that have watched them play in the last 2.5 months will be to be out in 3, and it's a best of 7.
Right. Yeah. Just throwing the towel after game 3, right? You're down 0-3. I mean, it's a wild time right now, Huss. I really do feel bad for the fan base, because I think they've been strung along here and sold a bill of goods that hasn't worked out for them. I think it's a watershed moment for this team, right? And I think that this is the summer where finally something will give, something will change. I don't know what it looks like yet, because I don't know what change actually looks like around here yet. I have an idea of what I think it should look like, and I think a lot of people do too. But until we see it, I mean, after last season, they announced a 3-year contract extension, and I understand that I believe there was a 4-year contract extension that was actually signed a year before that happened, but they finally announced it because Ken Wheat broke that news, and they couldn't hide it any longer. But still, I mean, the optics of after last season of here's 3 more years to a GM that has won 4 playoff series in 12 years, and that's it. And after the way that last season ended, when you're not even playing your future players and you're just playing, a bunch of veterans that had no need to be playing at that point, like, I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I get it. It's going down to the wire here. It probably goes into next week, the week after that, before the Jets are in or out or whatever it happens. But I don't think anybody can sit here and say that this team has any chance of making the playoffs the way that they play. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting homestand here. It's going to be interesting time. And this is the other thing, Russ. Like, if this team gets to the end of the year and they have to beat, to win to get in, and then they have to come up against the Minnesota Wild and the Colorado Avalanche at the end of the year. I mean, can they do that? I don't know. I don't know.
Listen, can they even? I mean, New Jersey's coming to town. One of the best road teams in the league. Lots to play right now. The Calgary Flames are playing a hell of a lot more as a team. As much as I don't think can stand Daryl Sutter as well. The key word that Rick Bowness mentioned last night, pride. You saw that last night with the Calgary Flames. They're not quitting on their season. They still believe that they can go in. And I'll tell you what, if that team gets in, considering team that they were before, I wouldn't be surprised if they were a very tough out for a team, that's near the top of the standings, even as bad as they've been. If they get Markstrom to mix in a save or two, that team can definitely be a real tough team to play against, especially with playoff hockey. We can't say that about the Winnipeg Jets right now, unfortunately, and it will be fascinating. Listen, we got to run to get to Murat, man. This is great stuff. I appreciated your piece today, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more fodder for topics in the pages of the Winnipeg Sun in the coming days.
That eye roll's not going away, Huss. That eye roll's not going away, because that, man, was that telling? Was that ever telling? I mean, that put a bow on you said it, the diametrically opposed views of those two, and you knew exactly. There it is, right there. You knew exactly when Murat said Mark Scheifele wants to play this way. I mean, bonus. I'm surprised he didn't hurt himself, man, because that was striking. It was stunning. It was everything that last week's comments were when I was talking about. But this is even more, right? It's what's going to come next week, or is it just going to be Rick Bowness just comes out and he's throws up his hands and that's it? That's his press conference, right?
That's what we're dealing with,
right? It's it's the shoulder shrug emoji, right? It's just, it's crazy, man. I don't know what to say. It's hard to put a lot of this into words or describe it, but this is a tough one, and I feel bad for I feel bad for the fans, because they deserve better than this for the prices that they pay to go and watch these hockey games and the amount of money they put into merch and all that stuff. I mean, this team, the fan base deserves better, and at the end of the day, they're the ones that direct what we ask and a lot of this stuff, things like that, because this is a smart fan base. It's not just a fan base that doesn't care. It's not a fair weather fan base. This is a fan base that hurts after stuff like this, right? It evokes a lot of emotion, and right now it's evoking a lot of emotion that isn't healthy for anybody, right? I mean, I think that's what it is.
And we talk about the money. I saw BA writing in Spit, people will support a team, but they won't at these prices. Guys, it's 2023. This team's in the NHL. I mean, complaining about it, and frankly, you talk about these prices, there has never been more affordable options to go to Jet games ever this year. So
$50 for a beer in a game.
Those are people just looking for an excuse why they're not going to the games. And listen, no one's forcing you to do anything. But if you want to have a National Hockey League team, you got to put butts in seats. You've got to support it and do that. But it's on the organization to give fans a reason to do that. And honestly, I'm not naive enough to think that in this situation, the Winnipeg Jets are going to be a Stanley Cup contender each and every year. But what I do want to see is a plan, is hope, reason to believe going forward. And the bottom line is guys that come up and show up and give their best, regardless of the situation. This is a hardworking city. Give us a hardworking team that might have to punch up a little bit. People will be there, and you hope you can develop some younger players like they did originally to get to a team that can eventually contend again for a cup. We're far, far away from that right now. Billeck, take it easy, man. Great stuff as always.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. See you guys.
By the way, man, pushing 650 in the chat right now. Hit that red subscribe button, any of you newcomers. We're here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. And if the end of the season is any indication like last summer, we're going to have a lot to talk about on a daily basis, even in the dog days of summer when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets. That being said, there is good news. We're going to have ice playoffs coming up. We'll talk to Ben Zloty a little later on. Manitoba Moose will be heading to the playoffs. Gold Ice season right around the corner. And, of course, the Bombers back. And that is one organization that if you want to think about was hit some real rock bottoms, certainly during my lifetime, that is now in a totally different stratosphere with Winnipeggers and with the Winnipeg sports fans. That is the Bombers. So lots of reasons to join us on a daily basis. Hit that red subscribe button and make sure to grab the audio podcast to search Winnipeg Sports Talk wherever you get your favorite pods. All right, Murat is going to join us in just a second. Got to give a shout out to our friends at Royal Sports. Hey, spring is just around the corner. And we always think about Royal as the best place to go and get your fan gear for your favorite team, whether it's the Jets, Bombers, NFL, Blue Jays, Major League Baseball, and the like. And, of course, the Hockey Superstore. But with spring coming, major turn of the seasons. The bikes are coming in. Soccer equipment, baseball, softball, gloves, tennis. We got to make the most of spring. So get ready to do it right from the get-go. As soon as this snow melts, pop on down and see our friends at Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. And make sure to follow them on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Do have to give a big thanks to our friends over at Boston Pizza for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. I know that the conversations around the table, if you were there late last night with your buddies, probably weren't too pleasing. But hey, listen, there's no better way to make a bad loss feel a bit better than a couple ice cold schooners, a couple of maybe some delicious Boston wings, and of course a little bit more from what you are able to do with whatever you're ordering. Gourmet pizzas, wings, and of course that new feature menu as well. Pop on down to Boston Pizza coming up for your next time to watch the game, and maybe you can find something else to occupy yourself or enjoy yourself with if the game looks like last night's for the Winnipeg Jets. And of course, I got to give a big thanks to our friends over at Canadian Club. You know that they are the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and a great supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And it won't be long before we're maybe crushing a CC and ginger or two at IG Field. But in the meantime, for all you lovers of Canadian Club and ginger ale, the premixed cocktail is now available in 473 milliliter cans at your local liquor mart or beer vendors as well. Get the great taste of Canadian Club and ginger ale in a can right now. If you don't see it at your local vendor, make sure to ask for it and pick up the great taste of Canadian Club wherever you get your favorite beers, options, and of course liquor marts as well. All right, we got to get to our good friend Murat Atesh, who is going to join us from San Jose right now. Murat was in the room last night asking the questions to both Mark Scheifele and Rick Bowness. Let's bring him in now to get his thoughts after having boots on the ground and witnessing that last night. Murat, thanks for doing this. Before we get to post-game and all the comments, let's start off talking about the game. This is one that this team absolutely had to have. They get shut out again. You were in the building. What did you see from the Winnipeg Jets and how it ended up the way that it did?
Hey, you can take it in stages before everything goes horribly wrong at the end of the game. Winnipeg starts pretty well in the sense that it's creating. But look, my comments right off the hop of that game was Winnipeg's playing it fast and loose. And I wrote that before the first penalty, the goal against, all of that sort of stuff. The Jets were going toe-to-toe with the then 32nd best team in the National Hockey League, and creating chances and giving up 10 bell chances as well. You had giveaways in the slot. You had lapsed coverage. You had all these sorts of things that you can't have against the worst team in a must-win game down the stretch. So that's my first impression of last night's game. Two players who I doubt most Winnipeg Jets fans have heard of combined for an excellent play, shifting behind the net and then centering in front. Noah Gregor gets away from Brendan Dillon to score that power play goal. And there's a sense of here we go again. From there, Winnipeg creates. Absolutely, it creates chances. And, Mason Appleton, who really got his butt into gear after that early giveaway into the middle of the slot, and some unfortunate plays by Appleton at various parts of the game. Like, he got going, he got onto a rebound, and that paddle save by James Reimer was just incredible. But you know what? Winnipeg made it to the second intermission against the worst team in the National Hockey League in a must-win game within a goal. and to give up another one so early into the third, to not be able to take over that game. You can talk about bounces, you can talk about shot clock, you can talk about any of those sorts of things. In any given moment of that game, Winnipeg had it within their power to elevate, to take over, to look at the circumstances and to do better with them, and it failed. That was an awful, awful performance from the Winnipeg Jets.
You mentioned Mason Appleton. He, of course, is playing with Adam Lowry and Nikolai Ehlers. I said on the show yesterday that I was actually quite looking forward to that tweak, and that I kind of considered that the second line going in. The ice time did not reflect that, and you speak to this in your piece right now that's up at The Athletic, that Bowness and the Jets need to get on the same page. First of all, what did you think of that line playing together? And maybe we can talk a little bit about how they were or were not used by the head coach until about the third period.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Lowry has been one of the few Winnipeg Jets to score, to generate. You can count on him in terms of his effort level, all of those sorts of things that not every Jet gives right now. Adam Lowry's got that. And, he's scored some big goals of late. He's made some impacts. Well, Nikolai Ehlers is maybe the only other guy scoring at this stretch. 4 goals in his last 9 games heading into last night. He's led the Winnipeg Jets in points per minute in 3 out of the last 4 seasons that he's played. Even this season, if you look at his points per minute, his goals per minute in the last 20 games, his goals total in the last 20 games are second only to Mark Scheifele. And so to see him being moved to the third line, it's certainly not about the results, because Nick Ehlers' offensive results have been there over the last while. They've been the second best on the team, and he's clearly a top 6 forward. So then you wonder, okay, is Rick Bowness going to look at that third line? Is he going to use Adam Lowry more? Because Lowry's been going, and certainly Bowness trusts him. We've talked about it many, many times. There are times when Lowry's the second line, and you looked at this as, hey, okay, maybe that's going to be the line he leans on. And then whichever one of the Dubois and Scheifele lines is going, that's the other sort of 1A, 1B sort of line. And this is just another one of Bowness's hunches. And, well, in the end, Nikolai Ehlers plays 4 fewer minutes than Blake Wheeler does last night. And that's horrendous. That's a joke. It is an absolute joke. Blake Wheeler hasn't scored a single goal since February 14th, which is ironically Nikolai Ehlers' birthday. Nick Ehlers enters the game on a relative heater, 4 goals in his last 9, like I said. And he can't see the ice. They can't find him ice. I asked Rick Bowness about it after the game. He says, hey, I'm trying to get Nikolai Ehlers more ice time. I'm trying. But he also says that he takes Kevin Stenlund out onto that line in Nikolai Ehlers' place to win right-handed faceoffs on the right side of the ice, his strong side. Well, I think Stenlund went 5 of 9 last night. Is that worth kneecapping that line by taking off its best offensive player? I don't know. I think that's over tinkering. So, I was a little bit optimistic like you that, hey, Bowness has made hunch plays that have worked this season. Let's not pretend that the first half didn't happen. But this looks like over tinkering and a little bit of business that's lost the plot.
And listen, I still thought that was the best line. I thought that they had the most legitimate chances. I thought that they were doing the things that the coaching staff has been preaching, shooting the puck, getting to the blue paint. What did you see from the top 2 lines, if you want to call them that, from the Dubois and Scheifele line last night?
Honestly, not a whole lot. I think that Mark Scheifele took a step towards his game last night. Certainly not an impact, no goals, no assists. I mean, that's what you're looking for from Mark Scheifele at this time of year. But you can look at a couple of plays early on in that game where he peels out of the corner, fires a seam pass to Vlad Nemesnikov that a defenseman just gets a stick on. That was Scheifele initiating contact behind the net, finding space, and yeah, the pass gets picked off. But that's a nice look. Later on in the first period, he spins off a man behind the net. He centers into the middle slot for Blake Wheeler, who fans on it. Scheifele, to his way of thinking, was creating offense last night. And again, when you don't score, which he acknowledged as well, and you don't create actual goals, it's a disappointing effort. He's certainly not the best version of himself, but I thought it was a gentle step forwards. On that same line, Nemesnikov was buzzing all night. That was one of your best players, and I don't think he should be one of your best players at this stage of the career or a season in a must-win game. But Nemesnikov's hustle created some chances, created some chaos, all that sort of stuff. Blake Wheeler reminded me of Matt Hendricks' old quote, playoffs, Nashville, 2018. I feel like a pace car out there. The speed is not there from Blake Wheeler right now, and it's astonishing to me that they continue to roll him out like a number 1 or a number 2 right wing when he is not producing, nor is he creating opportunities or creating chaos or using speed to create havoc or using his playmaking to generate chances in a way that peak Blake Wheeler does. And you don't even have to say that he's done. You don't even have to say that time has caught up to him and this is the end for him. All you have to do is look at the last month of play and say, okay, this is a down stretch for him. Other players can see their minutes reduced. See Nikolai Ehlers, for example. That's a player whose minutes can come off. So that first line was a mix for me. Meanwhile, Connor, Dubois, I mean, you expect more from them. You should be able to put those two together, and it's instant offense. It's instant you're cooking with something. And I don't think they got to the inside with speed. I don't think they got to the inside with power. I think you want more from those guys as well.
Murat, after the game, we heard from Mark Scheifele for the first time in, well, basically a couple of weeks after he took a 2-day timeout after the infamous benching in Carolina, which has turned into a complete disaster for this hockey club. I mean, he spoke for a while. I mean, that was the one thing I'll give him credit for last night. He actually came out and talked about it afterwards. Towards the end of the conversation, I believe it was you asked him.
You make the kinds of passes from behind the end of the slot. Even one today, I remember to Blake, and it just doesn't work out, sort of thing. You create chances by wearing teams down. So is there? We hear Rick Bowness talk, shoot. Is there kind of a different way of attacking that create goals problem?
Yeah, I'm a guy that, my whole career I play a possession game, especially in the O-zone. I like to, hold on the puck, and especially below the goal line. That's kind of where I create my offense, and then, go to the slot when I play with some pretty magical players that can find me in the slot. And, that's always been my game. And, if it's a matter of, just trying to create more possession time, trying to create more O-zone time and wear teams down. If it takes, 59 minutes, then it takes 59 minutes. But, that's always been my look at offenses is quality over quantity. And
it was a very well-worded question to sort of give him the opportunity to talk about what is being asked of the players on this team, particularly the forward groups and the top lines, and the way when they're struggling, they need to work to generate offense. And he had a very interesting answer about the way he likes to do things. We'll get to you asking Rick Bowness about that in a minute, but I mean, you were there. I mean, what did you think about what you heard from Mark Scheifele, considering what had happened in the game and his direct answer to, which to me sounded very at odds with everything that we've heard from the coaching staff as well as most of the team right now?
Yeah, I mean, to put it in context, Mark Scheifele, I mean, like you said, he was benched in Carolina 2 weeks ago, declined the opportunity to speak to media, which, nobody necessarily likes. The team's off the next day. The day after that, I mean, I think he told the two reporters he was talking to, he didn't want to give them clickbait, and he didn't feel like talking to them on that night. And that is not a good look. So heading into that press conference last night, Ken and I and a reporter from San Jose standing beside Scheifele, you're wondering which version of him you're going to get. And it turns out he's standing there thoughtful, open, articulate, calm. And we're having just a quality conversation with Mark Scheifele. So with that in mind, I think you can open things up a little bit more. And he's been, I don't want to say the victim of Rick Bowness's words of late, but the target. That's the word I want. He's been the target with Bowness saying, shoot. I don't have to tell Mark Scheifele every single game to shoot, get pucks on net. And midway through one of Scheifele's answers to a previous question, he says, well, hey, you know what? I generate by, creating, I hold on to pucks, I wear people down. And I just asked him, like, isn't that at odds with what Rick Bowness is talking about right now? And essentially, I mean, you can get into the full quote and, everybody involved deserves the full quote. He said, yes, that is at odds with what Rick Bowness is saying right now. You can talk about shot quantity, but I believe in quality. You can talk about get it on net, but I believe in holding onto the puck, wearing teams down, and finding plays into the slot. And there has never been a clearer, hey, the coach is saying one thing, but I know a better way than what Mark Scheifele told me last night in response to that question.
It was, what was going through your head when he was saying that to you?
Well, I was sitting there, not a lot of strong emotion, I got to be honest. I was thinking about what he was saying, and I have empathy for Mark Scheifele. If you look at the league-wide players who generate chances in the middle of the ice, Mark Scheifele has historically been a beast on that regard. even when it looks like he's shorting his back checks, even when he takes long shifts or just like limps his way to the bench at the end of a 1.5 minute shift, Mark Scheifele creates chances in the middle of the ice. It's his bread and butter. It's his gift. It's how he outscores his defensive problems. So from a certain perspective, I have empathy for, hey, this guy's actually pretty good at the exact thing he's saying that is his way of getting things done. At the same time, you think that through, and no matter who you are on any team, to put one person's viewpoint of how to play over the coach, over the team, that's not a good look either. At the end of the day, I think like you see teams in Boston who have success. No individual is bigger than the team. You can't say the coach wants us to play one way and I want to play another, so I'm going to play the other way. That just does not work in a team environment. And to have Dylan DeMello follow it up with a press conference or with his availability saying, you know, exactly the coach's message that we got 40 shots on net. We got to keep doing that. We can't look for the fancy plays anymore. Stark contrast. There are two different versions of how to fix the Jets, and Scheifele's on one half of it.
Well, and I did appreciate you after speaking with those players, and Scheifele in particular, asking Rick Bowness about it. And listen, just before we talk about it, Remo, if you want to cue this up, this won't have as much of an effect on the podcast than if you're watching on YouTube, because there is absolutely a visual to this as well. But here's Murat asking Bones about what he just heard from Mark Scheifele.
Two players came out. Dylan DeMello spoke to the importance of, hey, just because we didn't score, we still got to keep that shot clock high. Mark said, hey, the way I like to play is hold on to the puck, pull on the puck, look for that pass into the slot. I mean, it sounds like you're getting two different camps of thought in terms of how to get out of this scoring slump.
Well, you had enough scoring chances to win the hockey game.
You were there. I'm not sure if I've ever seen anyone bite their tongue more obviously than Rick Bowness had to do it right there. And obviously he didn't want to go down and answer the question, because I think he'd done enough answering of what he thought about his team, and in particular, one of his key leaders that isn't really buying in right now. That was a wild moment. Take us there, Murat.
I mean, I was so struck by the contrast between DeMello, who I think was towing the company line a little bit, and Scheifele, who was going off on his own path. Had to ask about it. I know it's post-game. I know it's intense for the coach. I know it's emotional. You're not going to get the detailed breakdown, but you have to put that to him to give him an opportunity to speak. And his answer, one sentence, really dry, a little off topic, that wasn't the story. No, it's his response, where he's sort of nodding along with DeMello, shot clock, okay. Scheifele, hold on to the puck, eye roll. And like, that is a frustrated man. That is a frustrated man who felt in the moment that, oh my goodness, I can't believe we have to go there. I don't want to get into it about this particular player in this particular way. And you know what? I think that just speaks to conversations they're having that we're not seeing, where they're clearly on opposite sides of how to get things going right now. And Mark Scheifele can be as stubborn as any human being, I think, in the NHL, based on my perception. So if Bowness is going against that every day and hasn't won yet, I think that we saw his exasperation come through.
There's 7 games left in the regular season. And after last night's action, the Jets are up on the Calgary Flames by 2 points. They play Calgary here next week. They play Nashville here next week. And the fact of the matter is they just lost again to the worst team in the National Hockey League. I don't think bodes well for what's to come. Where do they go from here, Murat? I mean, just short term, these next couple days, going into the Detroit game. What we've kind of been speaking about for the last week or so, that Rick Bowness has sort of done everything that he can do. And he went back and talked about, needing to tap into the pride of some of these players. How ugly could this get?
I mean, it could, if we're talking about what might happen, it could be the single biggest collapse of Winnipeg Jets 2.0 era history. It could be that. The Jets do not have a playoff spot guaranteed to them. As of this morning, Dom Luszczyszyn's model, which was as high as 75% on their odds a week ago, down to 53%, right? That's flip a coin and then maybe modify that coin with how your heart feels after watching the Jets play of late. I think the challenge to Winnipeg's pride is important right now. I'm critical of Rick Bowness right now. I don't like those Ehlers minutes, those Wheeler minutes, all that over-tinkering, the face-offs, etc. I think it was a huge overcorrection. But he's not wrong. You know, Winnipeg needs to make the playoffs. And if it makes the playoffs because their coach hit the right buttons, great. We remember the first half of the season. If it makes the playoffs in spite of coaching decisions, great. It got there. That's the goal. That's the only thing. And I think that what's missing from the Winnipeg Jets right now, maybe because they're squeezing the stick too hard, all the cliches, what's missing is looking at the adversity within a game and overcoming it. You can't go into the second intermission against the San Jose Sharks down a goal and come up with nothing in the third. You absolutely can't. That's not a successful formula. And time again, we've seen players fail to create the kinds of shifts where you know they're going to score. I know the shot clock was what it was. I don't have a lot of sympathy for that at this time of year. They need to get pucks in nets. They need to generate quality. They need to be able to make a pass out of their defensive zone without giving the puck away. Scheifele, who I've been complimentary of, did do that a couple of times. Mason Appleton with a particularly bad one. It should be about pride. I think that the Winnipeg Jets should take today that's off and feel a little bit sorry for themselves, or feel a little bit challenged, or feel a little bit embarrassed about their inability to beat the worst team in the National Hockey League twice in the last month. And then they got to get to work, because as they've told me, as Mark Scheifele told me last night, we're paid to produce. As Brendan Dillon told me the other day in a one-on-one, nobody's going to feel sorry for you. No matter what, your job is to show up for the next shift. Winnipeg's not necessarily doing that right now. And no matter what I can say about the externals and the coaches, that is on a group of individuals to find their best selves, or else worst collapse in Jets history.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, I don't, we'll have to maybe talk to the folks at Elias, but this would be one of the biggest collapses in recent NHL history, at least. I mean, a team that was in first place in the conference in the middle of January, missing the playoffs. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And this team is on the verge of being that team right now. And they seem so far from being a team. And I mean, I go back to what we heard from Scheifele, and frankly, what we've seen from him for the last couple of weeks. And again, I mean, is he the only one? No. Does he stand out the most because he's probably the most talented player on the team and the most important player on the team? Absolutely. And I got to tell you, I mean, it is so concerning, and I think probably absolutely infuriating to the fan base of this team to hear a guy that has been given so much by this organization, by the general manager, the coaching staff all year long, to basically come out, Murat, and say, well, yeah, I know this is what they're saying, but this is the way I like to do it, and continuing to do it even in the face of the biggest slump of the year and watching his team's fortune go down the drain along with it.
I think when people are stressed and strained, they go back to their habits. That's what I think. I don't think that the Winnipeg Jets are calmly, rationally thinking their way through this, because they've been slumping for a long time, and those emotions build up. There's anxiety, there's stress, all of those sorts of things, because they can see what we see. They can see the occasional no-shows for sure. They can see the standings. They can see the teams catching up on them, and they can see their playoff spot slipping away unless they get their stuff together in the last 7. And I think that in times of duress like that, people go to the habits that are most deeply, deeply ingrained in them. They go with what they know. And for Mark Scheifele, it's playing a particular way. And I think that says challenging things about Mark Scheifele, challenging things about all of his coaches at the NHL level to not be able to create a sense of team over individual style. I think Winnipeg Stars have gotten a lot of rope over the years, just an incredible amount of rope over the years. And that's coming home to roost right now. So I want to be critical of a player like that who can do so much and who is not doing it right now. He's not the only one. You know, you can point to Kyle Connor, you can point to others as well. And I think that we're getting a perfect storm of, well, coaching doesn't have the answers. Past coaching couldn't find a better habit. And the individuals right now never overcame this sense of, I know better. You know, when things go wrong for Mark Scheifele over the past several years, he blames external factors, at least in the media. He may be doing different work individually on his own. And for all of his gifts, and I want to give empathy during this stretch because, like I say, he is good at holding onto the puck, generating in the middle. The thing he says he wants to do at expense of his coach's vision, he's very good at it. And I think that that's just a human being falling back to habits that are long entrenched.
Murat, just before we go, I've got to ask you this coming off that loss last night. And again, this is a bigger conversation that we'll have, in the weeks and months to come. But as we sit here right now, going into the final 7 games of the year, how different is this team going to look next year, do you think?
I think it has to look quite different. Absolutely. The stretch run has shown us that no matter what happens over these 7 games, there isn't a finish or a playoff run. There isn't a number of playoff rounds that this team can win that would change history for these last several seasons. And the core needs to move. The core absolutely does need to change. And I think that Mark Scheifele, for his own sake as well, is a big part of that. As a trade piece, he's somebody who you can get at 1 year away from unrestricted free agency. You can get value for him. I don't think you can get a whole lot of value for Blake Wheeler, but you got to find a way to move on from both of those players. Pierre-Luc Dubois is an inevitability as well. But you know what, Huss? I think, and this may be against the grain right now, he might be a more sensible trade deadline trade than a summertime, let's completely retool this machine sort of thing. But from where I sit, this core has shown us what it is capable of, or as far as it's going to go. And the Winnipeg Jets need to identify that. They need to recognize that. Management, Kevin Cheveldayoff, ownership, Mark Chipman, who is involved, needs to kind of get out of their own way and recognize that there's a new direction for this team. Else we're going to see the exact same thing when they run it back one more time.
Murat, thanks so much. Have a great drive today. We'll look forward to seeing you back in the Peg for the final homestand of the year.
Right on, Huss. Thanks for having me.
All right, great stuff with Murat. Really appreciate him joining us today. He'll be back in town for the game on Friday, and we will see what we'll get from this Winnipeg Jets hockey club. Great stuff from he and Scott today. Really appreciate them joining us. Hey, don't forget, everyone, by the way, huge. We peaked at over 700 today during that Murat interview. Hit that red subscribe button if you haven't already. Really appreciate the support. And while you're at it, hit the thumbs up for the episode as well. And if you are looking to maybe get together with other fellow Jet fans, the Winnipeg Sports Talk gang, tonight is the night. Maybe it's a perfect night for us to get together, considering the way most people are feeling right now. Little Brown Jug this evening, 7 p.m. We'll get going with a sports trivia night. As I mentioned, crisis counselors on hand to talk you off the ledge when it comes to what's happening right now with the Winnipeg Jets. Hope to see you all there. I'll hit that one more time. Remo, if you want to maybe just throw it into the chat. We also have the link in the description of the video. And you can also check our socials as well. I've actually got one on it. I mean, if you can get a ticket in advance, we'd appreciate it. I do know there is some room still for folks that haven't already gotten their tickets. But just to be sure, if you can jump on that link, get it done, and won't be any issues if we do have a big rush going on. You'll make sure you're counted yourself in. We'll get going with the questions around 7 p.m. tonight. So we'll see you down at Little Brown Jug. And while we're there, I'm really looking forward to trying this new generic lager they just launched. Your basic lager, just better, impressively standard in the best way. Light and clean to taste with a mellow flavor and crisp finish. Now Manitoba can support local without having to move away from the domestic taste they've come to expect with a light beer. You can get it at the tap room or through vendors right now in 8-packs for $19.99, 473 milliliter cans. Great price on that. And we'll be trying it tonight down at Little Brown Jug. And we'll be asking some questions, having some fun sports trivia. So we hope to see you there tonight over at Little Brown Jug. Got to give a shout out to our friends at Consolidated Supply. They've got their beautiful new showroom out at 1395 Niagara Road East. But they haven't been able to do a big grand opening celebration for a couple years because of the pandemic. That's happening coming up on April 20th. Remo and I will certainly be popping by for that. Of course, Consolidated Supply is ready for spring. They've been the leaders in irrigation and artificial turf, working with the golf industry for many years, but far more Manitobans now talking to the gang over at Consolidated Supply about their own properties, irrigation products and irrigation solutions. And heck, if you've got any artificial turf needs, don't want to be cutting grass, or you want maybe that dream putting green in the backyard, they can help you out with that. And in addition, speaking of your backyard, I mean, check out their great selection of hot tubs and spas and amazing outdoor kitchen options as well. if you're thinking on a big project for your property coming up this year. They're also the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Consolidated Supply, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East. You can find out everything they can do for you online at cte.ca. Also have to give a big thanks to our friends at Culligan Water, who have been such great sponsors of ours over the years. Doing it for over 65 years in business as a family-owned company featuring water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems, and drinking water systems, not to mention citywide water delivery services and commercial and industrial water products and solutions. Pop by and see him at 1200 Sargent Avenue. You can give them a call at 694-5180 and check them out online at drinkculligan.com. All right, we've talked a lot of Jets today for obvious reasons, but there are some good news stories in the hockey scene around here right now, and one of those is the Winnipeg Ice, who just finished up back-to-back seasons as the number one team in the Western Hockey League, but now it's time to finish the job. The playoffs begin on Friday, 7 p.m. Friday night, 6 o'clock Saturday night against the Medicine Hat Tigers. The Ice begin their playoff run, and what a season it's been for Ben Zloty. And Ben just announced as the on the WHL first team All-Star team, set franchise records for points by a defenseman with 81. But what's interesting about Ben is that, while there's all these other first rounders on this team, and Zach Benson's going to probably go in the top 5 or top 10, Ben is not drafted, still an undrafted free agent going into this season, but he's focused on the task at hand, and that is winning a WHL championship and taking the Ice to the Memorial Cup. Let's welcome in first team All-Star in the WHL, Ice defenseman Ben Zloty, to look ahead to the playoff weekend. Ben, what's going on? How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I cannot wait to see a big, hopefully long and prosperous playoff run for your club. First of all, congratulations on another incredible season for your team and individually. How are you feeling now getting to the finish line and getting ready to start what is an incredible journey trying to win a Memorial Cup and a WHL championship?
Yeah, we're as a group, we're pretty excited, and we know it's a long road. It takes a long way to get there, and we're focusing one game at a time. Med Hat's a good team, so we gotta come to every game with that mindset that we're gonna go out there and play our system, and I think we'll be successful.
You've been a huge part of this team for 4 years, really, since moving here. Maybe we'll get to a little bit of how things have changed and how you and your teammates have grown together. But first off, I got to congratulate you. What an incredible season you had individually. A franchise record for points in a season by a defenseman. You led all WHL blue liners with 81 points during the season, 22 multi-point games. You've been building up to this in your final year in the Western Hockey League, but I imagine from a personal level, not only did your team pretty much win every night you went out and played, a great individual season for you as well.
Yeah, it's been fun. We got a great team here, obviously, and our coaching staff's awesome. We go out every practice trying to get better, just focusing on the little details to try and be ready for the next game. So obviously, with my individual success, I couldn't have done it without the guys on the team. I'm not the goal scorer, so there's guys putting the pucks in the net for me, and just try and do my role.
Well, I want to go back to, because we were speaking off air before we came on. You were part of the team that came here from Kootenay as a very, very young player. What's it been like coming into a new market, a bigger city, but a very unique setup, and growing along with this team to a club that's been the best in the regular season the last 2 years and poised to do something that we haven't seen yet in Winnipeg, and that's push for a WHL title?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Obviously, it's a big change coming from Cranbrook, BC to Winnipeg, but it's nice being in a big city. We got the big fan base, and obviously our rink, we're playing at the U of M, but the atmosphere in the playoffs here is pretty awesome. Everyone's been looking forward to that, and I think everyone on our team at our own rink loves it now. So it's kind of a little bonus for us playing at that home barn every game. But it's pretty awesome, and everyone's loving being in Winnipeg. So it's looking good.
Ben, It's a long regular season, and in the position you guys have been in, I mean, you've known you're a playoff team pretty much since the drop of the puck on the season. You've been in first place. What's it been like over the last, just call it 6 weeks or so, knowing that, it's not playoff time yet, but it's right around the corner? And what's been the focus on the team to put yourselves in the best position to be playing at your best when it really counts? And that's Friday night.
Yeah, I think our coaching staff has done a great job keeping us focused and trying to do all the little things right, the little details in practice. So just getting all our systems down pat and knowing where to be, knowing where to go, and getting the chemistry between all the lines and all the D pairs going. So it's, we're all just really excited and got a lot of motivation behind from last year.
No doubt about it. I mean, and I think, it's funny. I was talking to Brady Oliveira from the Bombers, and I mean, they had that great run and fell 1 point short in the championship game. And they sort of, if you talk to guys on that club, I mean, they're feeling like this is a bit of an unfinished business tour. I mean, going back and getting another crack to do what just fell short last season. Would that describe the Winnipeg Ice going into this playoff run? I mean, knowing how good your team was last year and how close you came, and now it's time to sort of finish the job and go all the way?
Yeah, we had a great team last year, and I think we learned a lot on that playoff run, just how physically demanding it is and everything that just goes into it. So it was obviously great to get that learning, and now we got a great team again this year, and I think this group can do great things. And yeah, especially from last year, getting out to Edmonton in that round there. So now we got a lot of motivation, and we got a lot of experience too. So I think we can bring that to each game and know each game that's we got to go out and work.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that experience because, I mean, listen, first and foremost, I mean, everyone on this team is a year older, a year more experienced, a year more developed as players. And I think that obviously puts you in a much better chance to win. But championship teams often have to learn lessons the hard way. What do you think you guys can build on from last year, and how can that experience, having the season you had, ending the way that it did, help you guys get to the ultimate goal, and that's winning your league and playing in the Memorial Cup?
Well, for us, we talked a lot in the offseason coming into this year about just what we learned in the playoff series, and a big thing we took out of that was just being strong. We knew Edmonton was a strong team, and ultimately, I think they just outstronged us, and we've been in the gym all year, just getting stronger. And so now we're ready to go, and we got a big team this year. So I think we can be physical, and I think that'll affect the game in a good way.
Well, and of course you've got some players. I mean, that was a very young team last year. I mean, I think in some ways it was sort of maybe a little bit ahead of schedule with how well you guys played, and in the regular season, of course, winning the regular season title. This year, though, I mean, got another big draft year for Zach Benson. Players like Savoy and McLennan and Geeky a year older. When you look around as one of the veterans on the club, how much more ready and prepared do you think this team is to get going on Friday than maybe you would have been in the past, despite the gaudy numbers you put up in the wins and losses column?
Yeah, we're obviously a tight-knit team here, so we got a lot of character and a lot of great friendships that'll last a lifetime. So just knowing that it's probably the last kick at the can here, and just knowing that we gotta get the job done is a big motivator. And being a bit older now, a bit stronger, I think it's going to benefit us in a great way.
We've always had a great time talking to head coach James Patrick here on the program. I mean, what's Jeep been saying to the fellas this week? How's practice going as you guys get ready to start what will hopefully be a very long playoff run?
Yeah, we've had some great practices, and obviously he knows what he's talking about. So whenever he's talking, everyone's listening, trying to get better. And yeah, just for practicing, just getting the systems down. Just had some hard ones at the start of the week, and now we're just getting into what Med Hat does, and it's been fun. It's been awesome. We're just ready.
Listen, I think everyone knows the incredible pro resume of James Patrick. How much has he helped you as a defenseman, Ben, become the best version of yourself, obviously ending up on the first All-Star team for the league this year?
Yeah, Jeep, we got a great relationship, and it goes back to when I first got drafted at 14, 15 there. So I've definitely learned a lot from him, and He's a great coach, and he knows what he's talking about. So whenever I can key in on what he's saying and do what he says, I think it just makes me a better player.
Well, Ben, I got to tell you, it has been so much fun watching you guys this season, but we always got the feeling when you went out and watched the Ice in the regular season that this was just a precursor to what will be an amazing playoff run. You made some big trades, or your management did, of course, bringing in Zach Ostapchuk and some of the others. And it just does seem like this is the beginning of what will be a great long run. But again, congratulations to you on an incredible season. Being the number one or on that first All-Star team is incredible honor. But I imagine personal honors are great. This is all about the team right now, and you and the fellas in that dressing room getting ready to drop the puck on Friday night and get off to a great start in the WHL playoffs. Yeah,
looking at the big picture, it doesn't really matter with the individual awards because everyone knows the big picture, and that's the championship. So we got a long way to go, and really excited for it. And I know we got the team to do it.
Hey, just before we go, you want to give a little message to Ice fans, or maybe some people that haven't seen you guys yet, as to why it might be a good idea to get some tickets on Friday or Saturday night and see what you guys have locked and loaded for the postseason?
Whoever is getting tickets is in for a good one. We're all motivated here, and it's definitely worth $1 to go pick up some tickets and be there for Friday, Saturday. Guns are going to be blazing, and it's going to be fun.
Hey, well, cannot wait. We'll get out there for sure, and hopefully have plenty of rockin' home games at the Ice Cave throughout the next couple months as the Ice look to win the WHL championship. Good luck on Friday and Saturday to get off to a great start with you and the fellas, Ben. Congratulations on a great season, and here's to maybe a visit in a month or two talking about a great run for the Winnipeg Ice and potentially run at that championship. Good luck, and thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, great stuff with Ben Zloty. Friday, Saturday night. I actually just tweeted out a link. Remo, if you want to maybe retweet that from the Winnipeg Sports Talk account, a little ticket link and a promo code for 10% off tickets for the Ice playoffs. Again, Friday, 7 p.m. and Saturday, 6 p.m. Going to be a rockin' atmosphere at the Ice Cave for the WHL playoffs. And I have a feeling that barring some sort of crazy upset, we'll be seeing the Ice play for quite a while. Have to give a big shout out to our friends at the Nick and Nicky DQ group for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk since prior to show number 1. You can pop by and see them and support them in the best way I know possible. Grab a Blizzard, stack burger, maybe some chicken fingers while you're there. 4 locations: DQ Niverville, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and DQ Northgate. And they do have an Instagram account at DQ Manitoba if you want to let them know what you want for a custom ice cream or Blizzard cake. They'll fire that up for you and get it ready to pick up quick and easy at any of the 4 Nick and Nicky DQ locations. And hey, if you just pop by, tonight is the night. We'll be down at Little Brown Jug, 7 o'clock, getting things going with the little sports trivia night. Come one, come all. Ticket link is in the chat and in the description and over on my Twitter in case you haven't got your seats already. We should have room for some more tonight from what I'm hearing. But as I said, if you just want to make sure we've got a spot for you, just get that Eventbrite ticket link, grab your seats, and we'll see you tonight for some delicious Little Brown Jug beers. I'm going to try that new generic lager. I can guarantee you that. Some fun sports trivia, and probably, as I mentioned, some counseling for Jet fans in need, considering what we've said. Remo, what a show today. I mean, we had over 700 people live in the chat at one point. And it's been bananas the entire show. And sometimes after losses, the numbers go down a little bit. People maybe just don't want to talk about it. We're in a whole nother atmosphere right now. People are still engaged. People love this hockey team, and people can't believe what's happened this season. And it's bringing them out in record numbers.
Yeah, I was surprised. as you said, Elliot was asking Chad, is this normal to have so many people here? And I was like, actually, after a loss, people don't want to hear about it, but people have a lot of feelings.
It's different now.
You're feeling like what we've been seeing this current group. It's coming to an end. Elliot Friedman mentioned it on 32 Thoughts. We've been talking about it for a while. And when you go from first place in January to since then having the 4th worst record in the league, and you're possibly, losing what you thought was a guaranteed playoff spot, and you're losing to the San Jose Sharks. I mean, combined with so many things, people are fired up. They're all here and want to talk about it. And we're happy to provide that. I'll give some numbers, Huss, real quick. I don't know if you want to hear these. You might want to cover your ears. The Jets, but I tweeted this out. 0 for 9 on the power play this year versus San Jose. James Reimer's numbers, 77 saves on 79 shots against the Jets, 975 save percentage. He's got an 89 save percentage versus, his season numbers. Sharks snapped a 9-game losing streak last night. The only other game they lost in the last 15 was also against the Jets. And I see people in chat.
The game they won.
Sorry, they won. My bad. They won. Yeah. And
2 wins in 16 games, both against Winnipeg.
And I think some people in chat, we've seen this, has people like, you're being too hard on Mark Scheifele. And it's not just him. And I was like, you're right there. The bottom line is their best players aren't being their best players right now. Mark Scheifele, 9 games without a goal. Blake Wheeler, 21 games without a goal. Kyle Connor, 1 goal in his last 15. Pierre-Luc Dubois, 1 goal in his last 10. I mean, Adam Lowry has got more goals in the last, 6 games than those 3 combined in those numbers that I just listed. So, I mean, you're not going to win if your best players aren't being your best players. And the power play, which we've talked about, which I still had hope that they would be able to make it a game there when they got those 2 power plays in the third. Like, they get these opportunities on the power play to make a difference in the game, and they just never do. 1 for 29 in the last 8. And it's just been slow, like, train wreck here. And coming to a head this offseason. We thought last season, offseason was entertaining for off-ice storylines. I'm sure this season, offseason will be even better.
Yeah, I can't say it's not good for business, but it's driving me crazy, as many of you have probably seen over the course of the last 2 hours. There is tomorrow's going to be an awesome show. Ruwicki's going to jump on. We'll also have Trevor Kidd join us. And if you heard Trevor on the OB post-game show last night, he was phenomenal. Really looking forward to that. And we'll also get ready for opening day of Blue Jays season, and even hit up for a couple minutes on Little Canada men's national team. Had a big game in Toronto last night. My guy JD Bunkus from Sportsnet is going to join us before the Jays home opener tomorrow. But the Jets are going to practice. I cannot wait to hear the aftermath of all of this. Day off today, what we'll hear from the Winnipeg Jets, certainly what we'll hear from the coach, Rick Bowness, a couple days removed from everything that happened last night. And I mean, who knows whether they're going to change lines, but this is what I would love to see. This is my request to Rick Bowness. Like, let's take a look at this. Dubois, Connor, and Ehlers, how we haven't gotten back to that, I'm not too sure lately. They've been the best line when put together. Listen, I thought Ehlers, along with Lowry, did add some, but they need to get him on the ice more. And obviously doing it with other players that he's had success before, I think makes a lot of sense. So Ehlers, Dubois, Connor. I'd like to see Adam Lowry playing with Barron and Niederreiter. If you're going to keep rolling Scheifele and Wheeler out there, do it with Nemetsnikov. And then the fourth line can be Steny with Appleton and Saku Menelainen. There has to be a spark offensively. I'm not sure we're getting it from the Scheifele-Wheeler combo. We have seen in the past, some better Kyle Connor, certainly since he was moved with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Last night wasn't it. And Dubois, sometimes he's going, sometimes he's not. Ehlers has been one guy, though, that continues to drive, and I think has at least shown that he has, he's got the heart. He's trying right now. They need to get him out there more, and Rick Bowness basically admitted as much after the game yesterday. So I'll be very interested to see how things look in practice tomorrow, what we hear from them. We'll be all over it on tomorrow's edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Let's see what's happening tonight in the National Hockey League on the Coolbet lines. 3 games. The Florida Panthers are in a very, very tough situation. They lost that game to Ottawa. I think they've lost 4 in a row right now. They're on the road to take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Panthers plus 125, underdogs, Leafs minus 148. And then the Islanders and the Caps. And the Islanders right now, let's just make sure we've got this right. The Islanders have 85 points through 75 games. Panthers with 79 in 74. A win tonight for the Islanders would get them to 87 and wouldn't clinch a playoff spot, but it would pretty much put them in. Big turnaround since they made that acquisition of Bo Horvat. And again, they're 6-3-1, a couple losses, big win against Jersey in their last outing. I do sort of like the Islanders. I think I'm going to make that the Coolbet play of the day today. Islanders money line at minus 112. And then the final game, big Central Division matchup up at the top of the division where the Jets used to hang out. Minnesota at Colorado. The Avalanche minus 159 favorites at home, and the Minnesota Wild plus 134. Saw Matt Boldy with the hat trick. He's chipping in while Kirill Kaprizov heals up. And, man, that Wild team is... it can only hope to be somewhat inspirational for Jet fans, seeing what is possible with courageous moves that, maybe eat a little bit of short-term pain for some long-term gain. They're feeling it right now, despite that big cap penalty, Remo. And it's a big, big game in the division right now, considering how tight it is with the Wild, the Dallas Stars, and the Avalanche.
Okay, Matt Boldy's got some crazy numbers. He's got 2 hat tricks in his last couple games, and may have had to make a tough decision in my fantasy playoffs and had to bench him. So don't ask. But in his last last 12 games, Matt Boldy, and that is, where was the Jets? This was starting 2 games before the game win against Winnipeg where Kaprizov was injured. He's got 12 goals, 5 assists, 17 points, plus 12. This guy has really, really stepped it up here when you needed a guy. I think all Wild fans were so pissed off. Oh, Kaprizov's gone. We're screwed. Our playoff, hopes are going to be dashed. We're not going to be able to get first. And they've been one of the top teams in the league here for a bit of a stretch. And I'm trying to load it, but Quant Hockey didn't pay their bill, so their site's down.
Well, anyways, only 3 games tonight in the National Hockey League, but that's good. We'll be down at Little Brown Jug. Hopefully you can come and join us tonight. Should be a lot of fun for a little sports trivia, a few cold beers, and a little revelry and potentially venting from you Jet fans. We'll see you there tonight in and around 7. Again, hit that link if you haven't already grabbed your tickets. Use that promo code WST if you're playing at Coolbet for your first deposit. We'll get you a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And by the way, if you do want to get in on any Major League Baseball futures, you got to do it before the season starts on Thursday. Actually, I guess there's 3 games tomorrow, Reem. Is that right?
Baseball?
Yeah.
Tomorrow's Thursday?
Oh, tomorrow is Thursday. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, tomorrow's opening day today.
Tomorrow's opening day. The Jays are going to be playing tomorrow at 3 against St. Louis.
Tomorrow afternoon, right after WST. Mm-hmm. Perfect. We'll do our thing here, talking Jets and much more. We will have JD Bunkus on to tee up Blue Jays season, but all the futures are there. I'm riding with the Jays. I think there's great value on the Jays for the World Series, to be honest with you. 17-1, although, I see that number has dropped to 13-1 after maybe we moved the lines on the lock shop. Interesting. Astros favorite for the World Series at plus 650. Yankees 8-1. Jays at 13-1. All right. That is going to do it for us today. Hopefully we'll see you downtown tonight for a little sports trivia at Little Brown Jug. Shout out to everyone that's already got their tickets. If not, make a decision. Let's go out tonight. Have a couple of the most delicious beers in town. A little sports trivia with the WST gang. And one way or the other, we will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on WST. Thanks again to all the sponsors that make this show happen every day. And all of you that joined us Again, if you are new, hit that red subscribe button and come on back tomorrow for more Jets talk and everything else happening in the world of sports, focusing on the Winnipeg scene right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. See you tonight. Come Thursday.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.